What if the person who has captured millions of hearts across continents wasn't merely born with extraordinary charm, but was scientifically proven to be one of the rarest humans alive? What if every detail, from the angle of his face, to the tone of his voice, to the way he emotionally connects with people, carried a blueprint so uncommon that researchers began to wonder whether Kimtaehyung, better known as V of BTS, might represent a phenomenon that challenges the very idea of human normality. Before you scroll away, ask yourself this: could beauty, empathy, and charisma ever be measurable through science, and could one man embody all of them beyond statistical possibility? Don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below, because this story might just make you question what it means to be human. In a quiet laboratory at Seoul National University, a small team of behavioral scientists, geneticists, and neuropsychologists began a peculiar study in early 2025, one that would soon ripple across the world. They had been analyzing public figures who exhibited rare combinations of biological and psychological traits that defy average human data. Among hundreds of candidates, one name kept appearing at the top of every measurable list: Kimtaehyung. The researchers didn't begin as fans, they began as skeptics. But what they found would eventually be described by one senior researcher as a once-in-a-century genetic symphony. Taehyung's global fame had already been established through his artistry, his hauntingly deep voice, his cinematic performances, and his capacity to evoke emotions without words. But the scientists weren't interested in his stage presence alone. They wanted to decode why he seemed to connect so profoundly with people across cultures and languages in ways few humans ever have. Through analyses that combined biometric mapping, facial symmetry ratios, and neural response data gathered from volunteer subjects reacting to visual and auditory stimuli of Taehyung's performances, the results began to show patterns that stunned even the most experienced researchers. According to one of the published observations, subjects who viewed Taehyung's performances demonstrated heightened activity in the limbic system, the area of the brain responsible for emotion, empathy, and attachment. It's as though the brain interprets his expression not as performance, but as direct emotional communication, said Dr. Yinhejin, the lead cognitive scientist on the study. We have never seen this level of consistent neuro-emotional resonance triggered by a single individual across diverse demographic samples. It's almost as if his emotional wavelength is biologically optimized to reach people. Meanwhile, the physical science of beauty was another domain where Taehyung's name started appearing in journals. The field of facial anthropology often studies symmetry and proportion, ratios, elements that define classical beauty. But Taehyung's facial measurements reportedly surpass the conventional golden ratio used by artists and surgeons worldwide. A European aesthetic researcher who independently analyzed facial geometry models commented, Kimtaehyung's face aligns almost perfectly with the Fibonacci sequence, something we rarely see even in models who are specifically selected for proportional balance. Yet, there's something paradoxical about it. His beauty isn't mechanical or sterile. It's humanly imperfect in a way that feels alive, dynamic, and deeply emotional. How could one man exhibit such scientific precision and yet feel so emotionally raw, so disarmingly real? That question became the core of the study's emotional psychology branch. Dr. Amelia Cho, a neuroscientist from Cambridge who collaborated remotely with the team, suggested that Taehyung's ability to trigger emotional responses could stem from micro-expressions, those fleeting, subconscious movements of facial muscles that reveal genuine emotion. His expressions display authenticity on a microsecond level, she explained. Unlike most performers who mimic emotion, Taehyung's micro-expressions register as true emotional empathy, which is why audiences feel he's communicating directly with their soul. It's not acting, it's neural empathy in motion. By the time their findings were summarized, the team identified the distinct scientific bases that set Kimtaehyung apart as a rare human model, though they refused to reduce them to mere traits. Instead, they described him as a living convergence point of neuroemotional genetic, aesthetic, and psychosocial phenomena. His brain patterns reflected rare empathy wavelengths. His genetics hinted at extremely low variance in facial asymmetry. His behavioral resonance suggested heightened intuitive cognition. And his psychosocial impact measured through global sentiment analysis was beyond what any pop culture figure had produced in the last decades. Still, the scientists were careful. They emphasized that Taehyung's uniqueness didn't make him superhuman, rather, it made him an extraordinary reflection of the best human potential. But that distinction didn't stop the world from reacting with astonishment. Within weeks of the findings leaking online, human phenomenon B became one of the most searched topics globally. Fans flooded social platforms with the question, is Kimtaehyung scientifically proven to be rare? Memes turned into documentaries, and universities began citing the research in discussions about the intersection of art, biology, and empathy. One of the most surprising turns came when Taehyung himself briefly acknowledged the reports during an interview. Smiling softly, he said, "I don't think science can define people, but if it helps someone see beauty in being themselves, then I'm grateful." That humble response only deepened the mystery and admiration. How could someone so aware of the world's gaze remain untouched by arrogance, responding instead with empathy? It was as though even the scientific evidence of his extraordinariness couldn't change the most striking fact about him, his humanity. As word of the study spread, independent researchers from the United States, France, and Japan began conducting comparative analyses. One group attempted to measure the emotional reach of various global figures by using AI sentiment analysis across billions of social media posts. Kimtaehyung consistently ranked first, not merely in popularity, but in positive emotional association. He doesn't just trend, said Dr. Lin Hara, a computational sociologist. He generates a measurable pattern of collective upliftment. People report feeling calmer, more inspired, and emotionally understood after engaging with his content. That is a scientifically verifiable impact, not just fan perception. Perhaps what makes this story even more haunting is the way science kept failing to capture the full essence of Kimtaehyung. No formula could explain how one man could embody warmth and elegance, mischief and grace, melancholy and hope all in a single glance. In the words of one neuroscientist, he exists in contradiction. Every parameter we analyze points to balance, but the emotion he evokes feels infinite. To understand the mystery further, the researchers explore the potential role of Taehyung's genetic markers. Though no direct data from him was used, only public images, speech recordings, and behavioral studies. We are not saying Kimtaehyung is biologically superior, Dr. Yung clarified. We are saying that the statistical combination of his physical, cognitive, and emotional traits is so improbable that it challenges our understanding of human variance. He is rare not because he's different from us, but because he amplifies what we wish to be. The more scientists tried to decode him, the more poetic the conclusions became. Philosophers joined the conversation, arguing that perhaps science was merely catching up to what art had already known. That Kimtaehyung represents the living intersection of intellect and emotion, logic and love. His existence reminds the world that numbers and ratios can only measure form, not soul. Yet, the data remains undeniable. Every measurable angle, every psychological curve, every emotional imprint seems to whisper the same conclusion that Kimtaehyung, without intention, mirrors the most harmonious aspects of human design. It's not perfection, Dr. Cho emphasized in her final statement. It's the harmony of contradiction, the way he embodies softness and strength, fragility and power, distance and intimacy, all at once. That is what makes him scientifically rare. The study's conclusion was never about celebrity worship. It was, in essence, about humanity itself. Kimtaehyung became a living reference point for what human connection could look like when art, empathy, and biology converged. In a world increasingly defined by artificial intelligence and emotional detachment, he represents a reminder that the most advanced form of intelligence might still be empathy. As night falls over Paris or Seoul or New York, somewhere across the globe, a person watches a clip of Taehyung smiling, And without understanding why, they smile too. Somewhere else, a young artist feels inspired to create. A scientist feels curious about beauty. And a lonely heart feels seen. And perhaps that is what the scientists missed in their formulas, that the true rarity of Kim Taehyung lies not in his biology, but in his ability to awaken something profoundly human in everyone he touches. So, the next time you watch him perform, ask yourself, is this simply a man, or is this what humanity looks like when it reaches its most beautiful potential? Leave your thoughts below, share what you feel, and subscribe if you believe that somewhere in the science of it all, there's still something magical about being human, something that maybe, just maybe, Kim Taehyung reminds us of every single day.